So now after registering face in the database and getting the list of all registered faces, the only thing left which we did not cover is comparing the embedding of the current face with the embedding of registered faces, and that thing is being done in this find nearest function. So now let's look at it. So this find nearest function will be called when we are calling this recognize function. So to this function we are passing the cropped face and the location, and inside this function we are passing that crop face to our model and getting the embedding, and after that we are passing that embedding to this find nearest function to compare this embedding with the embedding of registered faces, and we are doing that thing here in this function. So in this function you can see we are getting this list of double, which is the embedding, and after that we are creating and initializing a pair object here. So in this pair object, for now we are storing the name to unknown and the value of this distance to 5. So as you can see, it can only store two values, which is the name and the distance. And for now we are setting the name to unknown and a large value for this distance, because later in this pair object we are going to store the name of the recognized face and the distance between the embedding of current face and the embedding of registered face. So here after creating this pair object, we are iterating our hash map. So as you can see, our registered faces are present in this registered map. So here we are iterating it with the help of a for loop. So for each map entry which is present in this map.entry, so this is a way to iterate a map. So now for each key value pair which is present inside this registered map, this for loop will be executed, and here to get the key we are using this item.key property, and it will actually going to return the name of the registered face, and then to get the value which is a recognition object we can use this item.value. But in our case we are not interested in recognition, but we are interested in embedding stored in this recognition. So here we are using the embedding property to get the embedding. So now when this loop will be executed, so for the first iteration of this loop, here we are getting the name of the first registered face and the embedding of first registered face, and after that we are creating a distance variable and setting 0 here, and then we are executing another for loop which will gonna execute from 0 till the length of embedding array, and inside this for loop we are subtracting the embedding of registered face or first registered face from the embedding of our current face, and we are calculating the difference, and then we are taking square of that difference and adding it inside this distance variable. And when this loop will be executed for the length of our embedding array, the distance or the difference between the embedding of our current face and the embedding of our first registered face will be stored in this distance variable, and after that we are taking square root of that value to get the actual distance, and after getting that distance, which is actually the distance between the embedding of our current face and the embedding of first registered face, we are comparing it with the distance which is currently stored in this pair object. So for now we have initially set it to -5, which is actually a quite large distance value. So now here after calculating that distance, we are checking that if this distance is less than the distance of this pair, then we are going to override the distance property of this pair object and the name of this pair object. So what are actually we doing here? So basically we are checking that if the distance between the embedding of our current face and the embedding of our registered face is minimum or lower as compared to this -5, then in this pair object we are going to store the name of our first registered face, because that will be our recognition for now, and also the distance between the embedding of current face and the embedding of our first registered face. So now after the first iteration, so now in each iteration of this for loop, we are going to calculate the distance or the difference between the embedding of our current face and the embedding of registered face, and where the distance or the difference between two embeddings will be minimum. Then at the end of this for loop, this pair object will gonna contain the name of that registered face and the difference between two embeddings, and we are returning that pair object here. So in simple words, this method is comparing the embedding of our current face with the embedding of already registered faces, and it is returning the pair object where the name of that registered face is stored, which is most close to our current face. And then here, after getting that pair object, we are constructing the recognition object and returning it inside our registration and recognition screen. So that's how we are calculating the differences between the embedding of our current face and the embedding of our registered faces.